Alright, so this is a presentation of our final simulation action plans for Marketing 3180 by Alec, Connaughton, Garrett, Reynolds, Wallace, and Chris Wells. Alright, so we're first going to begin with a little background on All-Star. They're a multinational consumer product company that produces and sells prescription pharmaceuticals, over-the-counter drugs, and various other consumer products. Historically, the company has been organized into three divisions. The first is the ethical pharmaceuticals, the consumer products, and then the international division, but it was reorganized into a global product management because of their size and their structure, and so now it's the ethical drugs, consumer healthcare, and consumer products. And under each division, there are category managers, and then the major brands have their own brand managers who report to the category manager. So All Smile is the division of All-Star that we are currently working for. They manufacture and sell toothpaste, and they're under the consumer products division along with soap, laundry detergent, shampoo, shaving cream, and a couple other products. So the head of the consumer healthcare division established that our traditional market sales have been good, but we've been too slow developing in the newly emergent economies around the world. And so she wants to roll out a plan over 2 years, and the first region that she wants to enter is Latin America. It's a region of great potential because they have a population with over 500 million people. And as All-Star brand managers, we were given the task to analyze several different Latin American countries in order to determine which is going to be the most profitable for us to enter. We had to determine the appropriate target markets, the positioning strategies, the products that we're going to launch, the channels that we're going to use, pricing, advertising, and even promotion. So our first action plan is going to concentrate on the criteria that we use to decide where to produce. And the three main categories that we looked at were the economic environment, the target markets, and the existing competition. And then our second action plan is the decisions that we made regarding the 4 Ps. So product, price, place/distribution, and promotion. And at the end, it's going to have our contingency planned and an evaluation of our performance.
My name is Alec. I'm going to take you through our marketing objectives. Our first objective was to have a brand equity of around 50%. We decided that this was a pretty attractive objective because if we could do this, we would dominate the Mexican market and have considerably higher brand equity than any of our competition. And then by the end of round 4, what we want to do is have around $75 million in sales, and we'll determine that this is attainable objective because from what we saw with our competition is that their sales were roughly around the same, and if we can have more sales of them, then that means that we're going to have more brand equity and we're going to be the dominating player in the Mexican market. And then probably the most difficult objective that we wish to do is to have a cumulative return on marketing, and that's a difficult objective because that's kind of like hard to measure, and that will be something that will be probably the most challenging for our team.
Alright, so after researching the economic environment, the target market, and the competition, we decided to enter Mexico. Mexico is an attractive market for selling toothpaste and gels. They have the second most toothpaste sales at $296 million in Latin America. The competition in Mexico is relatively moderate, with only a few companies owning majority of the market share. The labor in Mexico is also relatively cheap, which will keep our operating costs down and allow us to spend more money on our marketing campaign.
I'm going to talk to you about the economic environment now, and what we learned from analyzing the economic environment in Latin America was that Mexico ranked probably number 2 in a majority of the categories, just underneath Brazil. They have a little bit of a smaller population, so that's why their GDP is significantly smaller. But compared to the other countries, other than also like Brazil, Mexico is definitely one of the more attractive ones with their economic environment. They had a GDP reported in the interpretive simulation of 1.84 or $1.845 billion, and that's significantly higher than the third country in the economic environment. Probably their most important most important thing in the economic environment was their GDP per capita. It was actually significantly higher than Brazil, and what that means is that people in Mexico have the spending power to spend around, or the average income in Mexico is around $15,300, and this will really allow them to afford these, the commodity toothpaste or the commodity things like toothpaste and gels that we will be selling, and then the exchange rate we found out was about $1 to about 12 pesos. That's kind of important because the home country is America. And then one thing that we thought was really cool was that Mexico was the only country to belong to more than one free trade agreements. They belong to the North American Free Trade Agreement, which is the United States, Mexico, and Canada. What that allows them to do is to trade between each other with relatively low tariffs or no tariffs. And then they also belong to the Pacific Alliance, and that's another free trade agreement between Brazil, Colombia, Chile, and Peru and Mexico. And what that allows is that these South American countries can trade with relatively low tariffs, and that will help us save money and have better margins because we won't have to be spending money on these the taxes from the tariffs, and that will give us better margins and operating costs.
All right, so we chose Mexico to enter in, and Mexico is a pretty low coastal tropical country, and it's increasingly sensitive to fluctuations in household necessities from anywhere from toothpaste to dish soap, but we're focusing mainly on toothpaste. And as some people may know, Mexico has a moderately low GDP, which restricts the vast majority of the population from getting their necessities they may need, including toothpaste. And so we would like to enter this market and basically adjust our prices and our products to their requirements, since their GDP is only a little over 15,000. But as part of All Star Brands, we felt like it would be most efficient to go into the economic part of the market, where ages of 25 to 40 are, and focus most of our product bases off of that. But not excluding the children in the country, because over 30% of the population is from ages 0 to 14. So we also like to include a kid's small toothpaste. Also, as an advertising guideline, we know that not a lot of people, not necessarily a lot, but not the whole majority of the population in Mexico owns a television, but over a fourth of the country has access to the internet, so we'd like to focus our promotion primarily through the internet use. And that seems to increase our sales as we progress through the simulation.
Before we decided to enter Mexico, we had to analyze the competition of the toothpaste brands that were in Mexico. And before we entered, there were 4 toothpaste brands. 2 of them were national brands, Dentacare and Eversmile, and the other 2 were local companies. By analyzing competition, we decided to go into market share, the market share that each company controlled of the toothpaste distribution in Mexico. Dentacare was the market leader with a little over 30% of the market. Their main sales came out of the economy toothpaste, and they controlled all of the healthy toothpaste sales in Mexico. The second leading company in Mexico was one of the local companies, which both of them were unnamed, but they controlled a little over, I think, around 26% of the market share in Mexico, and they rivaled Dentacare in the economy toothpaste, and that's where they got most of their sales out of, was the economy. And the third leading toothpaste company in Mexico was Eversmile. Eversmile is another national brand that decided to manufacture toothpaste and sell in Mexico. They acquired around 23% of the market share for Mexican toothpaste, and they got most of their sales out of whitening toothpaste, which they were rivaled by the last company, which had around 20% market share, which was another local company. And they both rivaled each other on whitening toothpaste. And surprisingly enough, no company had tapped in to the children's toothpaste, which created an opportunity that we saw. And that is the competition for Mexican toothpaste market.
I was also responsible for the decisions regarding the product that we had in our simulation. And since, like I previously said before, Mexico is primarily between the ages of 25 and 40, we like to base most of our products off of those age groups and based on that economy in the form of either gel or as a paste to give the consumer a variety instead of restricting them to either gel or paste. But also we'd like to include a kids line of toothpaste because nearly 30% of Mexico is made up of children from the age of 0 to 14. And so we don't want to lose focus on those kids as well. But going along with that, we'd like to have 2 medium economy-based toothpaste, and one will be in the form of gel, like I said, and the other paste. But we would only like to limit the kids to a paste.
All right, for the second P of marketing, I'm going to talk to you about price. And when we entered the market originally, we decided that to gain market share, we're going to undercut all of our competition. And how we did this was just looking at their prices, and we did around like $1 or less than their prices. And we thought that that would be a good idea to do, just to gain some acceptance into the Mexican market. And even though we did have lower costs or lower prices, we're still able to maintain the margins that we needed to take care of our administration costs and our other costs. Our toothpaste was significantly more profitable than our other than the gels actually. And what we did for toothpaste was we looked at our competition and we priced based off that, and we actually maintained around 40% margin for toothpaste. Our highest margin was in the kid toothpaste, was around 44%. Then our economy toothpaste was like the medium toothpaste, and that had a gross profit margin of 43%. And then for the gels, we saw significantly less profitability. Gels aren't very popular in Mexico, and we had around 30%, our lowest being 30% and our highest being 37% profit margin. And the reason why we chose such a low cost was to allow us to spend more money in advertising. Advertising really helped us boost our sales and everything. And our highest cost was around $6.84, and then our lowest cost was around $5. And what we typically did for pricing was just doubled that cost, and we chose that as our suggested manufacturer sales price. And that's what really allowed us to be profitable.
I was the distribution manager for the toothpaste of All Smile in Mexico, and I created our distribution strategy, which started off with deciding what channels we wanted to distribute in, and the 3 channels we chose were traditional, self-serve, and hypermarket. We chose these 3 because they were they had the most potential, upper potential that our manager saw, as well as we analyzed the competition's distribution strategy before we entered the country and saw that these were the best 3 channels we could use. At first, our distribution strategy started off, we weren't completely sure with how we needed to organize our channels. So we started off with keeping salespeople low in each channel, but we decided that we wanted to use promotions in each channel. And we also kept our sales force budget low, as well as the expense of our promotion low. After the first period, we saw that we had a little bit of success, but we realized that we needed to create a higher BEI and obtain higher profits through some of our distribution channels. So we decided to assign more salespeople to each channel, as well as continue our promotions in each channel. And lastly, we decided to increase the budgets for both Salesforce and the promotion expenses for the next period. After we did that, we saw that we contained higher profits and a higher income. So the third period, we decided to raise our promotions as well as salespeople. And we continued growth. So the last one, we decided to keep our salespeople the same, but we created the highest promotion, Salesforce promotion and expenses that we could use in our last one, and that got us our highest BEI and the highest profits that we had saw.
Alright, so during the first round of our simulation, we decided to go with a promotion budget of $6.7 million. We promoted in all 3 of our channels, which included traditional, self-serve, and hypermarkets. We allocated based on total channel sales, and after the first round, we had a lot bigger budget to work with, and we decided to increase the promotion budget to $50 million, which actually really proved to be profitable for us. And this round, we decided to allocate based on last year's sales, and we promoted in the same 3 channels. So we increased the sales force in each channel as well. And for the third round, we kept the promotion budget the same, but we increased the number of people in the sales force. For the fourth round, we increased the budget to $70 million, and we increased the number of people in each channel. And then during the final round, we kept the promotion budget the same, but we decided to increase the number of people in the sales force.
For our contingency plan, if Mexico does not turn out to be profitability, we're going to enter Brazil. And what we're going to do is we're going to enter Brazil around the second round, and that will really give us an indication of how we did in Mexico and what we could do differently in Brazil. Brazil is a really attractive market. It has the highest gross domestic product, the highest CPI, or consumer price index percentage, and also probably the most important is that Brazil has the highest sales in toothpaste in both the economy and the healthy brand. And what that will allow us to do is be profitable in Brazil, because those are the 2 products that we sold in Mexico, and if we determine that those were not profitable in Mexico, we could try them in Brazil. And there's also limited competition in Brazil. Competition in Brazil is a little light. I think the most market share that one company owns is around 30%, and we could definitely beat them in price and gain their market share.
As we come to a conclusion for the simulation, I chose to do the plan evaluation. And from the beginning of our simulation, we were very, what's the right word? Uninformed of what we should be doing with the simulation. So regarding that, we had a very low BEI to begin with. But as we progressed through the simulation, we learned that, increasing our sales force, increasing our promotion budget and advertising budget, it allowed us to eventually, throughout period 4, double our BEI to nearly 64, I believe, which is nearly doubling it from the beginning. So I would say that we have learned a good amount of information. But as we progress, we learned that we are primarily focused in the hypermarket, since this is the main form of market for domestic civilians to attend to. And you can see from our charts in our simulation that sales have gone through the roof because of this. And we've also increased our sales units from barely even touching the millions to nearly in the billions at this point. So I would say that we've done fairly well in that area. But we kept track with this throughout the whole simulation by constantly looking at our sales report and comparing it with the production cost reports that we had to make sure that we were not, spending more than we were making, and essentially getting a profit from that in the end. And as we came to the conclusion, we ended up being a very profitable market, and Mexico will be very happy to have All-Star brands in them. Thank you.